The phone rang at 3 a.m. Zakk Wylde stared at the screen, his heart already knowing what this call meant. 21 years of brotherhood, 2 decades of music that shook the world. And now, it was ending with a single conversation that would haunt him forever. "Zakk, we need to talk." Ozzy's voice was different, distant. Final dot, this is the story of how metal's greatest partnership came to a devastating end. And the secret Ozzy whispered that changed everything. Picture this. It's 1987. A 19-year-old kid from New Jersey walks into a recording studio. Long blonde hair flowing down his back. Guitar case in one hand. Dreams bigger than stadiums in the other. His name was Zakk Wylde, and he had no idea he was about to meet his musical father, Ozzy. Osbourne had just fired Zakk Wylde. The Prince of Darkness needed a new guitarist. Fast, dozens of musicians auditioned, seasoned pros with decades of experience. But when Zakk plugged in his Les Paul and let it scream, ... the room went silent. Ozzy later said it was like watching lightning strike twice. Randy Rhoads had been gone for 5 years. The wound was still fresh, still bleeding. Ozzy thought he'd never find that magic again. Then came this kid, this blonde hurricane who played guitar like his life depended on it, because it did. Zakk had grown up poor. Really poor. His family struggled to keep food on the table. Music wasn't just his passion. It was his escape, his salvation, his only way out of a life that felt like a dead end. The audition lasted 3 hours. By the end, Ozzy wasn't just impressed. He was mesmerized. "You're hired, kid." 3 words that changed everything. But success never comes without a price. And the price Zakk was about to pay would nearly destroy him. The first album together was No Rest for the Wicked. Released in 1988, it was Ozzy's comeback record. The one that proved he still had fire in his veins. Zakk's guitar work was ferocious, emotional, raw. Every note felt personal. Like he was bleeding through the strings. Because he was recording that album. Zakk learned something about Ozzy that the public never saw. Behind the crazy train persona was a man carrying impossible weight. The death of Randy Rhoads hadn't just taken away a guitarist, it had shattered Ozzy's soul. "I killed him," Ozzy whispered one night in the studio. The words hung in the air. Like smoke. If I hadn't been so fucked up, Randy would still be alive. Zakk didn't know what to say. How do you comfort a legend drowning in guilt? So he did what he always did. He played. His guitar became Ozzy's therapy. Every riff was a conversation. Every solo was an answer to questions Ozzy couldn't ask out loud. The tours that followed were legendary, but also brutal. Ozzy was struggling. With addiction, Sharon was fighting to keep him alive. And Zakk was caught in the middle, watching his hero slowly destroy himself. Night after night, Zakk would find Ozzy passed out in hotel rooms, sometimes in his own vomit, sometimes barely. Breathing, Zakk became more than a guitarist. He became a guardian angel. "I can't lose another one," Ozzy mumbled during one particularly bad night in Detroit. Zakk sat beside him until sunrise, making sure he kept breathing. This went on for years. 5 albums together, hundreds of shows, thousands of moments that bonded them like father and son. No More Tears in 1991 was their masterpiece. The title track featured a guitar solo that still gives people chills. 7 minutes of pure emotion. Zakk pouring his heart out through his fingers. But even masterpieces cast shadows behind the scenes. Tensions were building. Sharon Osbourne was making changes, big changes. She wanted to take Ozzy's career in a new direction. More commercial, more mainstream. Zakk's style was too heavy, too dark, too real. The first hint came in 1995, after the Osmosis album. Sharon suggested maybe it was time for a break. Just temporary, she said. Give both men time to explore other projects. Zakk's world tilted. Ozzy was his everything, his mentor, his brother, his reason for existing in the music world, but he trusted them. He believed the break would be short. He was wrong. Years passed. Ozzy worked with other guitarists, Joe Holmes, Mike Borden on drums. The sound was different, softer, more radio-friendly. Zakk threw himself into his own band, Black Label Society. The name said everything. He was marking his territory, creating something that couldn't be taken away. But late at night, alone in his studio, he'd play the old Ozzy songs and wonder if he'd ever get his family back. The call came in 2001. MTV Unplugged. Ozzy wanted Zakk back, just for one show. One night to recapture the magic. Zakk's hands were shaking when he picked up his acoustic guitar. 13 years of partnership. 4 years of separation. And now, one chance to prove they still had lightning in a bottle. The performance was electric. Even unplugged, even acoustic, their connection was undeniable. Mama, I'm Coming Home had never sounded more emotional, more real. After the show, Ozzy pulled Zakk aside. I missed you, brother. Those 4 words meant everything. But Sharon had other plans. The reunion was temporary, a nostalgia trip. Nothing more. Zakk went back to Black Label Society. Ozzy continued with his new lineup. They'd see each other at award shows, industry events, always polite, always professional. But the spark was dimmed. Years turned into decades. Ozzy's health began declining. Parkinson's disease crept in like a thief, stealing movement, stealing confidence, stealing time. Zakk watched from a distance, his heart breaking with every news report, every canceled tour, every sign that his mentor was slowly fading. Then came 2018, the announcement nobody wanted to hear: Ozzy's farewell tour. No more tours, too. The final chapter, Zakk wasn't invited. That hurt more than any broken bone, any failed album, any harsh review. To not be part of Ozzy's goodbye felt like being erased from history. But Zakk understood. This was business. This was Sharon's vision. This was how things had to be, or so he thought. The phone call came 2 months before the final show. 3 a.m. Zakk's house was quiet, his family asleep. The ring cut through the darkness like a blade. Ozzy's name on the screen. The voice was weaker now. Parkinson's had taken its toll, but it was still unmistakably him. Hey boss, need to tell you something? Something I should have said years ago. Zakk sat up, his heart pounding. Letting you go was the biggest mistake of my career. Not musically, not professionally, personally. The words hit like a punch. 20 years of wondering. 20 years of self-doubt. And now, the truth, Sharon thought. She thought you were holding me back. Too heavy, too intense. She wanted me to be more accessible. Ozzy's voice cracked. You weren't holding me back. You were keeping me alive. You were keeping me real. Tears were streaming down Zakk's face now. All those years of anger. All that pain. Melting away with each word. I'm dying, Zakk. Not tomorrow. Not next month, but sooner than I want. And I couldn't go without you knowing. You weren't just my guitarist. You were my son. The conversation lasted 2 hours. 20 years of unsaid words. Decades of buried emotions. 2 men who had shared stages around the world. Finally sharing their hearts. Ozzy told him about the nights he'd listened to old recordings, how Zakk's guitar parts still gave him chills, how he'd regretted the decision every single day. Zakk told him about Black Label Society, how every song was really a letter to Ozzy, how he'd never stopped considering himself part of the Osbourne family. "I want you at the final show," Ozzy said. "Not to perform, just to be there, in the wings, where you belong." Zakk was there, standing side stage at the Birmingham show, Ozzy's hometown. The circle completing itself. When Ozzy hit the final note of Paranoid, he looked directly at Zakk and mouthed 2 words. "Thank you." That was their real goodbye. Not the awkward industry partings, not the years of silence. Just 2 musicians who had found magic together, acknowledging what they created. After the show, they met privately. No cameras, no witnesses, just 2 old friends saying goodbye. "Play that solo from No More Tears for me," Ozzy asked. Zakk picked up an acoustic guitar. In a quiet dressing room in Birmingham, he played the solo that had defined their partnership. Softly, intimately, like a lullaby, Ozzy closed his eyes and smiled. For 7 minutes, they were young again. They were unstoppable again. They were family again. "That's how I want to remember us," Ozzy whispered. They hugged, a real hug, the kind that says everything words can't. Zakk walked away knowing he'd never see his mentor perform again, but also knowing that their bond transcended business, transcended time, transcended even death. Today, Ozzy's health continues to decline. Public appearances are rare. The voice that once commanded stadiums now struggles with simple conversations, but Zakk carries their music forward. Every Black Label Society show includes an Ozzy tribute. Every interview, he speaks of their partnership with reverence, with love, because some relationships are bigger than career decisions, bigger than management politics, bigger than the industry that tries to divide and conquer. Some relationships are forever. The phone still rings sometimes, usually late at night. Sometimes it's Ozzy, wanting to reminisce. Sometimes it's Sharon, checking in. Sometimes it's just silence on the other end. But Zakk always answers, because when family calls, you answer. Even when that family is complicated. Even when that family has hurt you. Even when that family is slowly saying goodbye. The last conversation they had was different. Ozzy's voice was barely a whisper, but his message was clear. "When I'm gone, keep the music alive. Keep our music alive." Zakk promised he would. He promises it still. Every time he steps on stage. Every time he plays those sacred riffs. Every time someone asks about his time with Ozzy, the answer is always the same. "It was the greatest honor of my life." And in those words, you can hear it. The love, the loss, the gratitude for 21 years of magic that almost never happened. A 19-year-old kid from New Jersey. A broken rock star looking for salvation. 2 souls who found each other in the darkness and created light. That's the real story of Zakk Wylde and Ozzy Osbourne. Not the business decisions, not the industry politics, just music. Just brotherhood. Just love. The kind of love that echoes through every note, every solo, every scream that shakes the rafters and reminds us why rock and roll will never die. Because legends don't just make music, they make each other immortal. If this story touched something deep inside you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more untold stories from rock's greatest legends. And let us know in the comments, what's your favorite Zakk and Ozzy moment? The music never really ends. It just finds new ways to make us feel alive.